Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Charity Haderlie, and you're listening to the Unmute Yourself podcast. If you've ever felt the weight of perfectionism, then this episode is for you. So let's dive into what it means to be better than perfect. So you know how social media and magazines paint this picture-perfect world where everyone's got their life together? You know, from Photoshop models to pristine homes that have never seen the likes of dust or clutter. It's easy to get caught up in the illusion of perfection. I mean, who wouldn't want a fridge that has never transformed a forgotten casserole into a hidden science experiment? You know what I mean? And then there's the fantasy of families romping in the meadows with perfectly coordinated outfits in a slow motion cinematic twirl with white socks that don't get grass stains. But let's be real. If you've ever tried to capture the ideal family picture, you know they have a way of unleashing everyone's inner gremlin. And I'll confess that my own inner gremlin has shown up during family pictures many times. And there was also that one time when we did an outdoor photo shoot with our dog, and she decided to roll in horse manure. You guys, I'm not even kidding. And she came barreling at us. And it was almost a disaster, but that's a story for another day. So back to this idea of picture perfectness. Now, don't get me wrong. I love a clean house, and I love to see a freshly polished car and picture perfect family portraits and beautiful designed food that looks and tastes perfect and delicious. I love all of that. They are inspiring, and I enjoy creating and admiring that goodness. But let's talk about the illusion of complete perfection that whispers, "You're not good enough. You will never measure up." And yes, I say these phrases in a weird accent to remind myself that they are not my thoughts. I don't have to believe them. And when they come to your mind, you don't have to believe them either. And guess what? You probably already know this, but I'm going to remind you that perfection is not a healthy measuring stick. Because last time I checked, we are all human, and to be human is to err. That is part of the plan. That is part of life. That is how it is. So often we forget that mistakes are part of learning. And so then we try to avoid them. Or have you ever found yourself holding back from a new skill set or even a job opportunity because you are trying to play it safe? The studies show that when we have a perfectionist mindset, we tend to just go after what we believe we can do well at. And one of the problems with this is that you have talents and skills that are lying dormant inside of you. And the only way to unlock those is to push yourself and try something new and be willing to fail at it or to be willing to suck at it. But perfectionism gets in the way, and it prevents you from even trying something new. Here's an example. Have you ever been presented with an opportunity and you said, "Yes, okay, I'll do this," and you had no idea how to do it, but you figured it out? Maybe it wasn't even presented as an opportunity per se, but it was a need that someone had, and so you jumped in and you helped them, and you thought, "Wow, I didn't even know I could do that." If you take some time to consider opportunities in your life like this, you have surprised yourself at how capable you are or how able you were to try something new. And a lot of times it's easier to do when it's, an emergency and you just need to jump in and you didn't have time to plan. So you're just like, "Okay, let me fill this role. Let me help you out real quick." And then you rise to the occasion. But when we have time to think about it and plan and evaluate whether or not we think we're going to fail, it's easy to talk yourself out of it. I've totally been there. So what do? Well, let me hit you with a story. There was this boy named Adam, and he loved to swim and dive. He was so good at diving that in 1999, he was named All-American his senior year in high school. But this title did not come easy. In fact, along the way, it seemed his progress had plateaued, and no matter how hard he worked, he was struggling to improve. And like many of us, Adam was a total perfectionist. He always aimed for a perfect 10 in his dives, thinking that this is the way to go. This is the way to improve. One day, his coach sat him down, and this was his message. You know, Adam, there's no such thing as a perfect 10 in diving. It's defined differently in each rule book. So you're wasting your time chasing something that doesn't even exist. That was an aha moment for Adam. All the time he spent trying to be perfect was actually holding him back. Now, that was a true story about Adam Grant, who's an organizational psychologist who's well known for helping people find their motivation and their meaning. And today he says about perfectionism that if it were a pill, it should come with a warning label. Caution, will cause stunted growth. Now let me ask you, are you striving for a perfect 10 in all that you do? A perfect 10 is a moving target. Remember, it's defined differently depending on whose rule book you're looking at. So create your own rule book. Define what success looks like to you, and what does progress look like for you. The world will never be satisfied. In fact, it will eat you alive if you let it, if you try to live by everyone else's rules. So take it to the Lord, take it to your higher power, and let him help you determine your aim. For me, when I speak on stage or even in this podcast, I'll be honest with you, I aim for a solid 8 because what I've found is that striving for a perfect 10 seems to suck the personality out of me. I mean, if you look up my TEDx talk entitled Connection, the Language of Humanity, there was a big part of me in that moment striving, because that was a big deal being on that stage. And I was striving for a perfect 10. And in the process, there were some parts of my speech that fell flat, and I struggled to really connect with my audience, which my whole speech was about connection. And, it turned out good, but I feel like I could have been more impactful if I had aimed for an 8. And the reason for that is because when I aim for an 8 instead of a perfect 10, I'm more relaxed, I have a good time with my audience, and I feel that ends up being even more transformational of an experience than when I try to be a robot and get a perfect 10. One of my friends has been encouraging me to many people have been encouraging me to launch a podcast. So thank you so much for those of you who have reached out to me and given me the kick in the pants that I needed. One friend in particular says, you are like me, you want to kick butt in everything you do and strive for that A+, but your B work is good enough. So if you're waiting until you have an A+ on your podcast and all the editing and scripting and everything that you're doing, then you're never going to stop editing it. It's a moving target. There's always something else you can improve. There's always something else you can tweak. There's always a better way that you can word what you just said. Get your B work out there because people need that. What about you? If you're aiming for the illusion of a perfect 10 or an A++ in all that you do, then those who need what you offer will never receive it. There are people who admire you and need your B work. Think about people in your life who keep it real. Isn't that refreshing and inspiring? I would love to say that I keep it real for everybody and I always show up consistently every day and everywhere I go, but I don't. I have my days when I put pressure on myself too. There's that one time, or there's many times, when I was stressing out about what to wear to a party. So I'm like, I gotta prove I'm not a scrub. So I wore the nicest skirt I could and heels and dolled up my hair. And then guess what? Everyone else got the memo that it was a casual party, but I did not. Sometimes it's like whether I try or don't try, I overthink it. And what I found is something that my son told me, actually. We were at the store doing back to school shopping, getting some clothes. And he was probably 14 at the time. He tried on this sweater and I thought it was the ugliest thing. And he ended up buying it. And he looked at me coolly and he said, "Mom, it's not what you wear. It's how you wear it." That is very profound. It is not what you wear, it's how you wear it. And I don't know if he came up with that in the moment or if he'd heard it somewhere, but That has stuck with me. It's not what you wear, it's how you wear it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. That has given me a lot to think about over the years. And if it's not what I wear, it's how I wear it. Isn't it? It's not how I live, it's how I'm living. And if I can live in that space of being completely flawed and perfectly awesome, how much more free am I from all the limits and all the judgments of what I think other people are judging me for or judging myself, like how that makes us shrink when we do that. And if you can step into that space and allow yourself to be flawed, don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for mediocrity. What I'm saying is give yourself permission to be human. There's a quote that I love by Sophia Bush. She says, "You are allowed to be both a masterpiece and a work in progress simultaneously. Simultaneously. Yeah, simultaneously. When we think of a masterpiece, typically we think of an outstanding piece of art or craft that's considered the best or award-winning and the most exceptional work. And yes, masterpieces inspire others. And just as a masterpiece is appreciated for being created, not for its perfection, but for being created. You do not need to be perfect to be appreciated. You are a work in progress. And the cool thing is, you are already a masterpiece. It's not a someday thing. It's not an eventual thing. It just is. It already is true for you. Maybe you can give yourself permission to appreciate yourself or write yourself a letter of appreciation. And maybe as a kid, you learned that you have to be perfect to be appreciated or to be acknowledged. Maybe you were shunned or made fun of or making mistakes. I think we all have. It kind of is part of the human experience of growing up with other humans who are trying to fight their flaws and traumas and challenges and struggles. But I promise you, hiding yourself does not serve the world. You are a divine work of art with a purpose. Don't you know that you're part of something bigger and your unique design reflects the beauty and intention of a higher force? Every step you take and every lesson you learn, even through mistakes, adds more depth and color and vibrancy to your story. Your challenges and your victories are like brushstrokes, creating a unique masterpiece. It's time to appreciate yourself too. Be cool with who you are because everybody is somebody else's weirdo. I promise you that. Seriously, we all have our quirks and flaws. And if you're trying to be perfect, sure, you might attract certain people that you're trying to be perfect for, but you're going to attract and develop relationships that are not sustainable. People who like the fake version of you are not people who really love who you are. And I know I'm simplifying this topic, and I'll dive more deeply into what perfection is in another podcast and how to combat it, like the root of perfection. But my goal for this first podcast is simply just to invite you to consider what it would be like to accept and love your perfectly and perfect self. How would it influence your work, your relationships, your goals and interests? And from the words of Marianne Williamson, as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Think about the people who free you to be more of yourself. They're the ones that are freed from that fear as well. And so as you liberate yourself, you help others. Your imperfections make you real, and your realness is what inspires. And when you inspire others, you liberate them from the illusion that is holding them back. Your imperfections are what make you the perfect person to uplift another who is walking the path that you have overcome, or the path that you are working on, so you can help each other overcome that. By embracing your flaws, and I don't mean by wallowing or not improving again, but when you embrace your flaws, you become a guiding light, helping others find their way through the darkness of societal expectations. And that, my friend, is better than perfect. As we wrap up, remember, your story is significant. Your power is undeniable, and your voice can change the world. Own it, claim it, and spread the goodness. It's up to you to unmute yourself. Hey, if you're ready to kick perfectionism to the curb, I want to invite you to join my 30-day Mindset Reset Challenge. You're going to invest just 5 to 10 minutes per day learning 3 simple yet powerful shifts that you can apply to every aspect of your life. Just head over to Amazon and grab your copy of my book, Perspectives. Change your lens, change your life. Be sure to get the second edition with the blue cover. Link is in the show notes. We'll see you next time.